In this video, I'm going to be deep diving defense with you a little bit, and we're going to be talking about coverage shells in Madden 25. And the reason why we're going to be talking about these coverage shells in Madden 25 is because we're not going to be focusing too much on blitzing. We're just going to be focusing on the actual shells themselves. I have a ton of videos on blitzes. All of the blitzes are in my ebooks. If you guys aren't a member of our school community yet, I'd really encourage you to consider joining. It's only $10 and it gets you access to all of my Madden and College Football 25 offensive and defensive ebooks, updates to those ebooks, blitzes, coverages, run defenses, everything you need on both sides of the ball to be really good at the game. So I wanted to talk a little bit about coverage and really kind of a theory, if you will, behind coverage in this game. And to do so, we're actually going to use 146, which is kind of similar to dollar. And we're going to go through some different formations. In this playbook, I'm in Patriots playbook. I have U-trip, I have trips tied in, which we can kind of like, again, I'm not so specific. I'm not trying to teach like how to stop motion wide post or how to stop, you know what I mean? I'm trying to teach like conceptually the main formations you're going to see in Madden. How do you defend them? And we always start with bunch, right? We always start with like a bunch type set or a bunch strong type set. And so we'll just come out here and take a look at this. Now, what I tend to suggest is there's really kind of two ways to play defense. In my opinion, from like an alignment perspective, either your safeties are in the box or they're not, and your corners on the outside are pressed or they're not, right? So we're just going to teach this with our safeties actually not in the box. I'm going to explain why. And we'll just come out in cover two. I do have 5-yard hook curls on. I'm actually just going to turn these on default. Put everything on default, and we'll just talk coverage. Okay. So, again, don't worry about the blitz, right? Don't worry about the blitz at all. I just want to focus on coverage. And I want to talk about mid-zone KO as well, because this ability is changing everything for you defensively. So, first and foremost, what are good shells in Madden? This year's game, I believe, the best base coverage shell is known as quarter half. This is actually a real life shell that is utilized by Vic Fangio, made famous by Vic Fangio. Now, the way he runs is a little bit more of a matching component. In Madden, match coverage traditionally is not the greatest way to play the game. Now, there are uses for match coverage this year because actually this year people are not running a lot of as much four strong as they did in previous years. But you're basically seeing bunch, and the bunch could either look like this, but most people's bunch is going to look something like this right here, okay, where you have four strong, or they're going to have this receiver compressed over here, okay? This is typically it. This guy being out here is actually fairly rare to see. You will still see some people running bunch with this guy out here, but generally speaking, he's probably going to be in this area of the field. So because of that, I'm actually going to grab bunch flex and use this one because it's a little bit more what you're going to see. Okay. So theoretically, what are the effective things that they can do within this look right here? I think that's always important before you start talking coverage. Talk about what are the best routes. What are the best routes? What are the things they want to do offensively? Okay, so the things they want to do, there's two. The first one is they want to throw seam streaks to really anybody over here. So this combo right here is pretty good, and you can kind of get to it a couple different ways. But basically, you know, we'll have this guy here. We'll just use a drag underneath, but like you want a seam streak on both sides. Okay, so you have to be prepared and equipped to be able to handle seam streaks. And what is seam streaks really good against? Seam streaks in this game are really good against cover three, right? Because you can only really defend one of them with a cover three coverage. And in this year's game, the middle third is really not that good of a coverage, not good of a zone. So again, we're flat here. We're gonna pretend like we're using this defender right here, and I just want you to really just watch these seam streaks, and I want you to show you this is default depth. We're not even bringing our safeties in the box, but this is mid-zone KO. So we'll just throw this one on the left. You see mid-zone KO does a pretty good job. Like it breaks on the ball. He stays in position. This is honestly fairly new development in this game. This has not been the case most of the year. Now, I'm going to illustrate this a little bit better by moving this guy out, because I'm going to basically try to really force this seam streak. So, again, let's just put this guy on a spy, and I just want to show you how this middle third will play this seam streak. So I think it's important. So, anyway. We'll just do a speed out. Actually, we'll do a streak, a speed out, and like a drag or a post. So first thing is we're looking left side. So you see here, I'm gonna throw this. That's mid zone KO. Okay. So the reason that this is valuable, in my opinion, and the reason why mid zone KO is like super good, is because I can kind of throw it here, but it's really not. You know, I mean, it's there, but it's not really there, and he's going to KO it a lot. Now, let's look over here to the right side. So the right side, you're going to see here, where would you throw you throw your streak right in here, right? So we'll actually show the same look and kind of go over this real quick. So again, we'll just streak, speed out, post. Like this. This is like the standard way to do it. Normally, you only have one seam streak. Sometimes you have double seam streaks, but honestly, normally you only have one. Anyway, so I'm just going to, now we're going to run cover 3 really this way. And we'll blitz this guy. Actually, I forgot we were in cover 2. So run cover 2, and I'm going to explain why cover 2 is valuable in a minute. And then our user's here. So we would actually user the post. So we'll just kind of man him up to the post so you can kind of see that. And then over here, we'll play cover 3. Okay. So this would be like a standard deal. So I'm going to force feed CeeDee Lamb the ball. So I was, seam streaks. And look, mid-zone KO in position and KOs, right? And I actually got to sub in my... I don't even think that is a mid-zone. Is that a mid? I don't think that's a mid-zone. Let me actually sub him in. But even though he wasn't a mid-zone, you see like it's a little bit... You're getting better coverage on... Yeah, it's not even a mid-zone. You're getting better coverage on these guys with mid-zone KO. Let me put... my user. Let's put Hamilton down here actually and put Porter up top. There we go. Okay. So we have mid-zone KO. So because of mid-zone KO, you don't have to bring your safeties into the box. Now, what's really cool about this, in my opinion, is cover 2 is equipped to handle. So what are the best routes of the game? The best routes in the game, in my opinion, are... these are like your top 5 routes in the game. And really, you see these in almost every popular formation. The first one, it's just kind of like a little bit of an underrated thing, is cheat motion plays are really good. So just to illustrate what that would look like, a cheat motion play could be something like this. And ultimately, this is what's going to happen. It's going to normally be a streak. So he would just motion across, and you would snap the ball like while he's in motion. He'd be more outside than that, but anyway, he's going to get over that left side. Okay, that's generally like what's happening on a cheat motion play. Okay, so you have to kind of be prepared to be equipped to handle that to the short. And normally that motion is going to come from strong side to short side. So like trips, it's going to be a motion from the trips tight end across to the tight end side. Right, that's pretty standard. If it was bunch nasty, it's going to be a motion from bunch nasty side to the solo wide receiver side. If it's normal wide off close, that cheat motion is not really a streak, and it's still even a strong motion across. So I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that's really worth hitting on. If it's a tight set, maybe, but you really mainly see bunch nasty and trips nasty. Trips tight end, flex, and bunch nasty are the formations you see these cheat motions in, right? So how do we handle a cheat motion? We'll talk a little bit more about that, but the basic idea is you have to be prepared to handle these cheat motions. The best way to handle a cheat motion is it does bomb a cover 2, but you can put this quarter out here, and now this cheat motion is going to struggle. So this is why I think the best shell in the game is quarter, half. So you have a 5-yard hook curl, because guess what another really popular route in this game is? Zig routes to the wide side of the field. Or just to the formation strength. So like U-trips, it's this right here. It's this whip route to the tight end. Well, this 5-yard hook curl, so like watch the vert hook. You'll see a vert hook is really valuable for defending that. Very, very valuable for defending that. So if you just think about like what we're generally going to see is we're going to see this shell be very powerful because you're able to stop cheat motions. And what I would literally do is I would shade underneath so the vert hook plays better. I would cloud or soft squat on this right side. And then I would quarter, quarter, half. And then now I can send 4 out of this. So like if I wanted to send this guy, I can use either one of these linebackers and I can send 4. Basically is the idea. So like what ultimately what you're looking to do is you're going to use her this left side hook curl, and then you would have your defense set up. So basically this is the idea, and generally most good defenses this year are sending 4. Most good defenses are sending 4. This is the most, I think, has the most integrity of a coverage that you can have, and the reason why is because these backed off cloud flats do a really good job of defending a corner route. So like let's say bunch, another really good combo in bunch would be, also we'll get to these return routes in a minute, but it would basically be this corner route right to the right side. So we would basically have this. Watch this cloud. You see that the cloud is going to do a good job of defending this corner route. So let me just show it real quick. So you see here, this cloud is in pretty decent position. Now you can switch stick to go kind of finish the coverage, but in general, you're in pretty good position. So the other route that you have to be prepared to defend off of this is the stemmed corner typically, which is going to be stemmed down 1, and then the streak on this left side. And then on the back side, it can pretty much typically be something like this. Like this is a legitimate bunch combo that you would see. So what'll happen on this is the vertical hook will defend the return route, your user will defend the dig, and then the cloud will defend that right side. So the main thing we want to show is how this inside quarter is going to do a really good job of playing the seam streak. So you see here I have this inside quarter here and the deep half, and they have mid zone KO. They don't have deep in zone KO, but they have mid zone KO. See how this kind of plays out. I throw this, there you go, and it plays it. Because what mid zone KO does is it improves the reaction of every zone. It doesn't matter what your zone is, it improves their reaction speed. So you see on this play, and this is why I think it's so critical to look at this, and we'll talk about how switch stick incorporates into this in just a minute, but you see this is taken away. This cloud flat is important because it takes away the corner route really pretty decently. The vertical hook's important because it takes away any return route, and it also takes away any zig route. Either way, it'll defend both of those routes to that trip side. So now what we're basically left with is really keying in on this isolation defender. Now there are some other ways that they could obviously run the play. So another popular setup would be a branch return where we're going to do something like this. Basically, this is the idea. Okay, so how would I defend a route combo like this from that same cover 2 look? Well, this is where we start to incorporate the switch stick. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're still going to send 4. You still have that shaded down yellow, or you could put your yellows on 5 and he'll play pretty decent. You want to have either a cloud or a soft squat on the outside here. And then your user in here. So as we watch this play, the vertical hook will kind of make them hold it for a second, and then they're throwing into that mid-zone KO, so they're going to struggle to throw that streak. And then what you're going to see is, as this play kind of develops, we see this, what's nice about this defense is if the tight end is not on a streak, we can switch stick onto this quarter, and basically he becomes almost like a robber in the middle of the field, okay? So the idea here is I'm going to read this play. I'm going to say, oh, all these routes are coming back. I'm going to switch stick here and take this in route and let the hook curls play the return. So now look at how this plays. This is like the way to defend bunch formations. I don't care what bunch it is. Any bunch, this right here is such a valuable coverage shell for bunch. It's not the only coverage shell you want, but it is so valuable because, again, you're sending 4. Now watch this. Look at this vert hook. You can't throw the streak right now. You have to wait. Now you can throw it, but now look, mid-zone KO is going to be there. It's going to knock this out most of the time. Sometimes they'll complete it, sure. But most of the time it's going to play. And if you want to, honestly, the perfect depth for corners, the perfect depth for safeties in this game, in my opinion, is about 10 yards. You'll see here he starts at about 14 yards. You really want him about 10. But anyways, so you see how this plays. Now, what I'm able to do, this is why this quarter is so important. And I know that I know the play, so that obviously you're going to be reading this in a game. But think about this. If this was street corner flat, we'd honestly be fine. Okay? We might give up the flat, right? But is that really the end of the world? So, but anyways, what I'm doing as my user, I'm looking at that bunch side. What's the combo? I see it. Okay, everything's coming my direction. So now when I see this tight end cut, and this is a really good rule of thumb for trips tight end and for bunch tight end and for bunch, when you see that solo wide receiver come underneath, guess what you can do? You switch stick onto this inside corner and you rob that tight end route. You'll get so many interceptions on that. Okay, so what about like a street corner flat crosser type setup? So you're talking about verticals. Well, a couple different ways to defend this. I will say this type of verticals is a lot better than other verticals. But what do we have? Well, what we have here is, and again, there's a couple different ways to get to it, and I know that I'm gonna cover that in a second. But what we basically, how do we have to defend this? Well, your deep half, your vert hook, your cloud, those guys are all kind of locked in coverage. You can't really, you can't switch stick onto really any of these guys. These guys are pretty much locked in. Okay. But what you are able to do, and again, this is why you got to understand who's your robber player. This is your robber player here, and then either one of these linebackers, either one of these. And again, you're obviously using one of them, so and probably blitzing the other. So let's just show that. So we blitz this guy, and we're using this guy, for example. Okay, so you see that really we can switch stick to this quarter, but now if you take a look, because of the set, because of the defense that or the offense they're in, I can't lurk the crosser with this corner, right? And again, if they put the running back underneath, that's important to really take a look at here. But I want you to watch how this play kind of develops. So again, once I see that tight end's on a streak, I'm basically just using the crosser on this. So you see here, I'm just gonna lurk the crosser, and we'll take a look at actually how it looks in the replay. So if I get verticals, and verticals is different than smash return, which I'll cover that in a minute. But you see here, there's nothing underneath that's threatening the middle. So you see here, the running back in route to me is not really that big of a deal. I can let this vert hook play it because he has mid zone KO and he can potentially KO it. The vertical seam wheel is taken away. So my main responsibility here is really just the crosser. Now, what I could do is I could switch. This is also important. I could switch stick to this defender once I see that running back go underneath. So once I see that running back go underneath, I can switch stick here and then look for anything coming back across my face. I could do that. I can easily do that. Okay. But in general, this is going to handle most of it. So I'll kind of show you what I'm actually getting at here. So again, we're quarter, half, but because we know this tight end's here. So we know that this right here, if that tight end goes on a streak, I can't just switch stick onto him. But, if I'm playing a lot of this and they're running a lot of this verticals play, well, what I can do is I can say, oh, it's verticals. Okay, I'll just switch stick onto this and get the crosser. Right, I could do that. The other thing I want to show you, though, is another mechanism by which we could switch stick this, which I do think is important to show, just because it does a really good job of kind of sticking to our rule of thumb, which is basically we're going to switch stick onto the outside quarter or this quarter. So what you'll see here is as the play kind of goes, I realize, okay, there's nothing, I got to get on this quarter. So I get here. Oh, I can switch it to this quarter, and now I can take it like that, right? So that's another way to do it. Now, I did want to go over a branch returner, a cross concept. So when they're running across the field, a couple of different ways they could do it, but it's basically just a route combo that crosses the field, if you will. And that's why I really like cover 2 on this left side. And let's show that. So this would be like a branch return, right? So we have this slot apprentice crosser. I'll just show it with this guy. This could be, a couple different ways to get to it, but it's basically this right here, right? And then you have the drag. So everything is going underneath. That's the main thing I want you to see. So what I see is I see 3 routes going underneath. Now, I can still switch stick here initially, but I see that the tight end is on a fade, okay? Then I can go either to this half, or I can honestly go back down to this hook curl. So you'll see here how this kind of works. I'm back up, recognize, oh, I can just take the half and cut underneath, or kind of similar to what we were showing before, where I could switch stick onto that outside quarter, or I could just stay on the hook curl because the vert hook is going to do its job. So you see how we're able to take away a lot of different combinations with this defense. Another example would be, basically your corner route, your streak, your post, like this, if you will, and then, something like this, right? This is a pretty popular play. So, how would you defend this play? Well, your cloud flat's going to do a decent job at taking away this corner. You do have a shaded down yellow for this drag route, which is not terrible. Again, we're also timing this all together with our pressure, so we need our blitz to actually come in. But what you'll have here is the capability literally to just go, okay, here, nope, tight end goes under. I just switch stick right onto the quarter and I rob that crosser. So I'm just trying to say, like, giving yourself rules, giving yourself, like, if this, then that of switch stick, I think makes it a lot easier in terms of how you actually go about switch sticking. Okay. So, anyways, that is how I would switch stick, kind of bunch style formations. Now, what I wanted to do is jump into like a trips tight end look and kind of show you how a lot of these principles really still apply, but we're just going to use kind of a little bit of a different way to get there. And again, understanding where the seam streak thread is, to me, is like very, very important. So again, we want to typically send 4, and typically, in most defenses, you're going to use one of these 2 linebackers. So with trips tight end, right, where it's a little different than bunch because it's kind of similar to like a bunch nasty, but it's a little similar. It's a little different than bunch. It depends on if they're running a lot of motion wide post or not, but ultimately I feel like it's kind of the same. So, basically it's a quarter here, it's a quarter here, it's a hard flat here, and the reason why the 2 quarters is because if they run verticals with this tight end corner, because I have mid-zone KO, you see he plays it pretty good, honestly. Because again, it's that improved reaction time that really is what's valuable. Now, the challenge with trips is they can bomb your cover 2 if they want to do like a combo like this. You'll see here, this is a really open throw. So it's a little different in terms of how you would defend a trips look, because you have to kind of worry about that a little bit more. And this is where I would introduce roll coverage. So roll coverage is where we roll into a cover 3, basically. So I still think the outside quarter is really key here. So I'm going to go with an outside quarter here. But I don't have as big of a seam streak threat here to the right side, because if you think about where my user is going to be also, typically you're going to kind of user this tight end, if you will. So I'm not too worried about a tight end seam. What I'm really worried about is this left side, and that's what we're going to get into. So anyways, I have this middle third here, and then kind of a couple ways to get to it. I think the easiest way is to actually outside third this safety over here on this side, because now this streak that we were giving up to the outside, we're not going to give that up to the outside. The only thing that we're going to do, and this is why the improved reaction time is so important to have, the only thing that's going to happen is they're going to have a window to throw this this seam streak, which I'll cover that. So again, we'll just say, like, say we're over here, for example. Take a look at this seam streak to circle. You'll see that this is kind of a throw, but again, there's that improved reaction time. It's a tight throw. It's a bang play. And that's where it kind of becomes up to you of how you want to run your defense. But ultimately, Trips gives this a little bit more trouble. The vertical hook is good, but it's not like, like if you got like a flat, like if you got a true vert hook here, the problem is you kind of need this more down in here. This is almost a little too back, which is important to kind of think through. But this is a really nice coverage for trips. It's just the main thing you got to kind of watch, which could be some value into sitting over here too with your user. Kind of usering over in this area. But basically, the main thing you got to watch is this seam streak to the left side. This, whether it be from the number 2 or the number 3, this throw is a problem, as you see. So, because because of that throw, I have to half this guy, right? I have to half this guy. But now, and let's just show you the same basic deal. This is just with a half. But now, this outside fade, if he doesn't get rerouted, that's a touchdown. So it's hard to play cover 2 against trips, in my opinion. And that's why you have to kind of decipher where is the holes, or where are the routes ultimately trying to get to in a trip set. And typically, what you can the other thing that I was going to show you is this motion over. So like this is kind of a basic example of like the motion post play. And the problem or the challenge with this is if I'm in a cover 3, right, and I'm using over here, now I can throw this tight end off rip. And that's a hard, so I'm saying. So you have a lot more seam streak type threats with trips tight end that you have to kind of be mindful of, is all I'm trying to say. And so this is where I think ultimately against like a trips look, you have really 2 options. One of them is you can roll over the tight end side. So you could do like this. And the reason why this would work is because now what this allows you to do is you can use her over here in this area. You can blitz this, and again, you just blitz however you want to blitz. But, you basically can send 4. And then you can kind of structure the coverage in a way that you can kind of sit over in here and take this away. The reason I like this, or the reason that this is a little bit of a problem, is if they motion over. Now, you have the outside third, so they're not going to hit you over the top. But this is where, again, that tight end streak can kind of be lethal because I can kind of throw him up that. See how I can kind of throw him up that spot? So, those are some of the challenges, I think, of trips. And ultimately, I think the safest way to play a trips tight end is just a straight cover 4, right? A straight cover 4 to me is the easiest way. Now, what you're going to do is this is really important, you're going to switch stick on the crossing route. So what I would do is have my hook curl to this right side. And really what I would be looking to do is switch stick to this inside quarter if that tight end does not run a streak, okay? And you could pretty much switch stick to him almost any time. But basically the main route is motion Y post, which is something like this. This takes away all the big plays, and it really forces them to work either a corner route to the left side or a tight end post slant. So you'll see here, I can just switch stick here and take this. You see what I'm saying? So I can do that to handle this look. I don't think it's wrong to again mix in the purpose of a cloud. If you think about it, part of the purpose of the cloud flat is so that we can get another yellow zone on the field. So I can go quarter like this, and then if they do motion, like let's say they motion like they're going to attack us over the top, one of the things I can also do, so like if they were to go, something like this with this flat, because a lot of times they'll put this flat out here so that it stops the soft squat, so the soft squat doesn't play. What you can do here, again, is like, let's say we have our coverage kind of structured like this. What I would suggest doing is switch sticking onto this vert hook or the soft squat. So again, we'll just kind of try to give you like real time what it would look like. I see here. Oh, I know I got to kind of get over here to the soft squat, and we just live with the fact that they take their 5 yards. Because situation, you call cover. The reason you call cover 2 as well is so you can defend a corner route better. Cover 2 defends corner routes better, and it defends the middle of the field a little better than cover 4. If everything was cover 4, then you would just get peppered in the middle of the field a lot with like running back seam streaks, things like that. So that's the whole idea of having this be like this. Middle thirds just, I tell you, they just do a really bad job, I think. You know, if I run a combo like this middle third is just never going to get to this tight end, which is the main issue. Because I could just throw, you know, you see how I can just throw the tight end there. And you have to third. If you don't third, it's a touchdown over here. So again, the coverage shell that I would really want to be in would basically be this. The problem with this is the fact, you know, that if they ran a combo like something like this, then take a look at this tight end. Watch that. See how that outside third, it does cover the fade, but that middle third just doesn't get there, to be honest. And that's really the main challenge of this. So that's where you could switch stick onto him. You could totally switch stick onto him and kind of drag him into position. But it's kind of tricky. So the main two coverage shells to me against trips is quarter with a cloud out here or a soft squat. The reason you would want to use a soft squat is because it will match if they don't have a running back route, which is also why you need to send four. So you have kind of a blitz that, like, if they have to block their running back, this becomes really a great coverage shell against trips. Because if you think about it, like I'll show you, if they have to block the running back, let's say this is the cheat motion play, the cheat motion, the soft squat will always match him. And so you see there, and I think I might have my hooks on 5, which I did want to cover that real quick. So one other thing you can try. Do I not have the? One other thing you can do against trips is I don't have my hookers on 5 for some reason. They didn't match. Oh, I think I might. I don't know. Anyway, another thing you can try against trips is you can actually press trips on this left side. And the reason why you might want to do this is because when you press these outside guys up, because again, I think trips requires more cover 4, right? When you press these guys up, what you'll get here on this left side is a reroute. So you'll get a reroute on this outside guy with this cloud flat, and you could, you know, kind of have him wherever you want him. But the beauty of that is this gives the deep half time to get over there. And this is where, you know, again, I really like cover 4 to the tight end side, personally, because now it allows you to user this kind of area. And then anyway, the reason this is valuable is because take a look here, you get a reroute, and it's still kind of there, but you know, sometimes you can actually get this guy out here, but this is where you can almost kind of start cheating out a little bit, but you don't want to go too far. So anyway, just some ideas in terms of trips, how you could actually go about defending it. The main thing you have to defend in trips is you have to defend the tight end post and you have to defend the seam streaks. Those are the two things. So like a corner route to the left side, while it's going to be a good thing, it's not going to like tear me up if we give this corner route up. One of the best ways to defend this corner route is, and again, this is kind of interesting, but it's really cover 4. So like if I'm using right here, and there's some combos they might run on the right, you know, if I'm using right here, all I have to do is switch stick to this quarter and take this away. So you see, this is why, you know, cover 4 is pretty decent against like a trips. Now, while we're on the subject of trips, let's go talk about U-trips. It's very similar, very similar to this discussion, but I think it's worth at least looking at. So like U-trips or Y-off trips Pats, and how do you want to defend this? Again, the best way to defend something like this is ultimately probably cover 4, because of the fact, you know, you want to play really what you want. If you're doing what you want to do, you want to play cover 2 to this side. Again, kind of similar to the common theme here. You want to play cover 2 to this side. Almost always, you're going to use her probably over here. Okay? And basically, you're going to play cover 4 over here. So it looks like this. You might have a middle third. But this is basically, like, this is, to me, decent U-trips defense. But what's the problem? Again, and you're not as big of a risk here, but if they run cover 2, you see how this fade just can kill you. Okay, so that's where you're at. You know, kind of a risk. So another thing you could do is you could run okay, well, let's run cover 2 this way, right? And the problem with this is all decent coverage, but there are holes in it. The problem with this coverage is there's literally just a stock fade that can just take away a deep, like really, really manipulate a deep half. It's a hard throw, but if they know how to make that throw, it's a thing. So you have to kind of be like, okay, I don't know how do I run, cover 2? Because again, here, let me see if I can actually hit it for you. You see here, see how you can throw it to the left, and then you just burn cover 2. So you can't really do that. So you're kind of back into that cover 4. Right? Situationally. And a little bit of this is like, okay, well, we're just guessing. But really, this is the safest. And then how would we actually use this shell? So what I would probably do is I would probably have, it's a little bit up to you, but I think you probably have this over here. And then either A, you're going to do something like this, which I don't think is terrible. I don't think this is a bad idea, inverting the cover 2. Or B, you're just going to switch stick on this quarter a ton. Because the main route that is going to be ran on this left side is going to probably be a post. So like a combo like this, and this would definitely give this a little trouble, but if we were in like a mid-read situation, I think they'd get a little bit better. But anyway, the idea here would be, you see that, you switch stick to this quarter and go take it away. So switch sticking to the quarter is probably, ultimately your best bet, but it's the main challenge becomes a play like this. And I'll show this. So the reason that this is a challenge against a cover 4, this is why you would want to have a cover 2, is because you're kind of stuck here. So the best thing you can really do is if you see something like this, you kind of have to switch stick here, but see the running backs open. This just really, it's hard to stop that. So that's where, situationally, that's where you would probably mix in this cover 2 to this left side, because this cover 2 to this left side is going to play this really well, because what you basically can do now is you can just switch stick onto the inside quarter and take away the post, because again, you have the yellow zone. So that's why yellow zones to me are extremely valuable. And the quarter half is basically, the idea is kind of stealing. You're trying to steal a yellow from a cover 4 shell. So the problem with cover 3 is you give up seam streaks. The problem with cover 4 is you give up this underneath seams. And the problem with cover 2 is if you're not careful and they have the right play call on, then they can just, kill you over the top. So those are the things you have to kind of think about. Ultimately, I think all 3 of these coverages, 3 to 4 coverages of these, where we're either playing, a cover, not necessarily a true cover 2, but like quarter, half with this, I think there's use for this. I also think that there's use for a coverage that looks something like this right here, which I call roll coverage. I think there's definitely use for this. And then I also think there's still a time and a place for this coverage, right? Or this coverage, right? And in a formation like this isn't a bad coverage look at all. I also think, ironically, there's a place for this coverage in kind of short yardage situations. So there's all these different ways to do this, but I do think a 2 safety approach is probably better than, this was a really good coverage last year. The problem with this coverage is this hook curl is really not like what makes the hook, it's okay. Like you can run this and there's still some use for it. But it's more so useful if you like invert it. This is decent, but my goodness, it's like you really got to be careful with these seam streaks. You really do. But you see here, I mean, this is decent. Like it's and you see, it's like good and bad at the same time. So anyway, I wanted to kind of deep dive some coverage with you guys and see what you thought of this type of video. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, I could totally do this. I really love talking about this stuff. And then if you guys want any of the finalized stuff and the actual setups and stuff like that, that's all in the ebooks in our school community. school.com/Cody Ballard. But thanks for watching the video. I hope that this helps you kind of give you some ideas for defense in this game.